Is science opposed to theistic religion? A theistic religion being one that conceives of God as an absolutely perfect being who is personally involved with his creation. In the past, there have been sharp clashes between the historical claims made by fundamentalist theisms and some of the historical sciences, such as archaeology and cosmology. But sophisticated contemporary versions of theism have succeeded in neutralizing these conflicts by sharply separating the sorts of facts that science, in principle, is capable of explaining, and those that are fair game for theism. There are, however, other ways in which science can oppose religion than by negating some of its creedal doctrines. It could put a strain on, create a liability for theism without being logically incompatible with it. It will be argued that it does this by giving some support to a metaphysical system that is at odds with that of theism. It must be emphasized that this oppositional relation is an indirect one. It does not hold between science per se and religion, but instead between religion on the one hand and a metaphysical theory that is rendered somewhat plausible by science on the other. Science, according to this scheme, need not render theism improbable, less likely to be true than not. Rather, it lowers the prior probability that theism is true, in which the prior probability of theism is the probability that it has relative to our background knowledge minus science. First, the metaphysics of theism will be sketched, and then the opposing metaphysics that science renders somewhat plausible. According to theism, God's purpose in creating the world was to have it populated by creatures like us, who can, through their own free endeavoring, come to know of his existence, adore, worship, and obey him, and eventually enter into a loving communal relation with him. This requires a metaphysics that depicts the world as a fit habitat for such creatures, one in which objective status is accorded to those sensory, emotional, aesthetic, and evaluative characteristics that give meaning and purpose to our lives. This is a humanistic or anthropomorphic metaphysics that projects the categories that apply to the world of human endeavoring onto reality at large. The world is designed so that it will serve as a proper moral proving ground for their free struggles to achieve sanctification and ultimately salvation. The world, therefore, becomes fraught with human meaning. Because human beings are made in God's image, they are essentially spiritual beings, as is their Creator. It is their immaterial souls that survive the medical demise of their physical, organic body. Their souls enjoy a libertarian type of freedom similar to God's that makes each of them a mini uncaused causer, an instigator of a causal chain without being determined by any earlier events to do so. This cozy, comforting metaphysics has been challenged ever since the rise of the new physics in the 16th century. The remarkable success of modern science has led many to question the three basic tenets of this theistic metaphysics. First, the objectivity of what has human significance. Second, immaterial souls. And third, their libertarian freedom of the will. The underlying tenet of their scientistic metaphysics is that science tells us of what is that it is, and of what is not that it is not. Since each of these three tenets of theistic metaphysics finds no place in the scientific take on the world, they are false. Let us consider how this is supposed to happen for each of these three tenets. First, the bifurcationism issue. The new physics was supposed to have shown that only the so-called primary qualities, those that are needed for the formulation of scientific laws and theories, have objective reality. All the rest, such as the sensory, emotional, evaluative, and aesthetic qualities, are relegated to the dung heap of the subjective, being nothing but ways in which organisms like us are consciously appeared to. Our common sense view of the world is radically mistaken. A troubling bifurcation between man and nature is thereby created. And much of philosophy since the 16th century, even when not theistic in intent, is an attempt to heal this breach. Surprisingly, some of the leading proponents of a scientifically based bifurcationism were themselves believing theists, most notably Descartes. Descartes was worried by the false beliefs that were based on the manifest common sense view of nature, since false belief is taken to be a species